It's beyond shocking that no time has been set aside this week to discuss the recent referendum results. I had called for a full and rural independence, for a full debate on the topic, but it seems that the political establishment, which includes all opposition parties apart from two, want to conveniently forget about the result. The reality is that the referendum results marked the largest no vote in referendum history, with figures of 73% in the care referendum and 67% in the family referendum. The government parties and all the legions of supporting NGOs could only convince an average of 13% of the elected eligible voters to vote yes, dropping to 7% in Donegal, with all your parties together. These figures underscore the detachment of Ireland's political establishment from the political realities faced by ordinary people, a glaring political disconnect that is a colossal issue, and people saw that and see that. The hypocrisy of those who have advocated for a yes vote but are now distancing themselves from it is pointed out, with Senator Lisa Chambers in your own party astonishing, and two senators from Fine Gael didn't vote at all, and they campaigned for yes. Did you take the people for complete fools? I am demanding dedicated Dáil time for an in-depth analysis of how the government and political parties have become so out of touch in this country today. The Dáil must discuss the implications of this vote, the message from the people, and the ramifications for governance. The House must reflect on the nationwide concerns and place emphasis on the real question. Will the well-funded political parties, will you repay the 23 million to the taxpayers for the referendums who wanted, no one requested these referendums, no one looked for them, only some of your fancy assemblies or something else. Serious questions have been raised as to why ministers and government spokespersons constantly misled the Dáil here, including Minister Martin, they're sitting beside you. Spokespersons misled the Dáil and the Irish people. But just facts. She did.
It's not in order.
It's a fact, sir. It's well known. Attorney General and others, he held the information that the advice they had given. These questions must be discussed. For example, shocking files revealed under Department of Finance under FOI suggest that the care amendment wording was deliberately chosen by the government to avoid a concrete and mandatory obligation on the state. Just imagine that you do that to the most vulnerable people, that you would treat them like this, people out of carers and the excellent work they do, that you try to undermine them and sabotage them by putting such a wording in, and then forcing them to canvass for a yes vote, which made them seem ridiculous, the Carers Association. Even now, after the referendum is over, you are avoiding accountability in this House by avoiding the opportunity for debate. You can be sure of, if the result went the other way, you'd be dancing around Dublin Castle, and you hadn't the manners or respect any of your political leaders to stay in Dublin Castle for the final, or any other town centre either, for the final result. You've got a lashing from the people. The Taoiseach has taken his accountability. He's ran to the hills. I'd appreciate if you ran after him.
I'm in no doubt about that, Deputy. But could I say, Deputy, that you've called for a Dáil debate. The people are superior on constitutional matters to the Dáil and to the Seanad. That's the great thing about De Valera's Constitution of 1937. He gave the power of amendment to the people. In some other jurisdiction, he did that in an era of fascism. And many people never want to give credit to the 37 Constitution. When the rest of Europe was going fascist, a genuinely Republican Constitution was enacted, and the power of amendment rests with the people, plus, of course, judicial interpretation, which means it's a live document, and the judiciary have interpreted the Constitution over decades afterwards. And the people have decided. I'm comfortable with the fact that the people have decided, Deputy. I respect that. It's open to political parties, open to the government, it's open to the Oireachtas, and it's this Oireachtas put the question to the public. And it's interesting, you can go right back to 1993, Deputy, the report of the Second Commission on the Status of Women in 1993. Then there was the Constitutional Review Group report of 1996, the All-Party Oireachtas Committee on the Constitution 10th Progress Report of 2006, the second report of the Constitutional Convention of 2013, the Department of Justice Equality Task Force of 2016, the Oireachtas Justice Committee report of 2018, the report of the Citizens' Assembly on Gender Equality of 2021, the Oireachtas Joint Committee on Gender Equality of 2022. All of those going right back to 1993, with successive members of the Oireachtas across all parties, agreed on taking deleting those articles out of the Constitution, or at least proposing the deletion of those articles out of the Constitution. This was the first government that put the question. People may argue about the precise formula that was used to put the question to the people, but we're acting on a succession of reports that had broad consensus. Now it seems the public have taken a decision, not as perhaps exercised about those specific articles as people in successive Oireachtas might have thought. I accept that, accept the decision of the people. And in respect, I think it's not fair for you to suggest that people were misled in this House, or that indeed ministers misled. By the way, the legal advice is extensive, covers far more than the one letter that has been that was published on the eve of the election, and it's extensive. But without question, all amendments to the Constitution will always be subject to judicial interpretation. I mean, that's obvious, and that was said during the course of the debate. And then the issue of allocation and prioritisation, what you've referenced there, it's the Oireachtas should allocate resources, not the courts, ideally, in our constitutional framework. It's the Oireachtas should allocate and prioritise resources, whether education, to health, or to wherever in the public expenditure realm. It's always been the way.
Thank you. Deputy McGrath.
Taoiseach, you actually look, you know the people have spoken. Of course we know that. And you won't have a debate on it here. How you can be so out of touch, so detached, and every party in this House, you're talking about durable, and you're here today then phoning opposition on different issues, letting on to be different. You're on the one on everything. We can't have a debate here on immigration. You're all the same. Anybody who speaks another narrative is put down. So look, you got your answer from the people. They're wiser. And what you thought, you deliberately misled them. You wouldn't give the information, the Attorney General's advice. You'd publish it after the event. Just imagine trying to put that to the people, that you keep this advice secret. The advice has come out. You deliberately got a warning for the carers that would damage the carers, that wouldn't give a commitment, any kind of commitment. You strive to look after them. You deliberately put that word in to insist that you ensure that you wouldn't give them funding, that you wouldn't have responsibility. That Taoiseach made other damning remarks about the carers and who should be caring and whatever else. You deliberately put that wording in. So you talk about respecting the Constitution, respecting the Oireachtas, and respecting the people. You're not respecting the people, and the people have lost absolute respect for you. And the sooner you realise that and try and get back in touch and call an election the very better, because you've lost your way and you're confused. But the deliberate misleading and deception is disgraceful and not acceptable.
Deputy, the wording would not have damaged carers, and I'm not going to argue or re-debate the debate, but I would contest that very strongly, that your assertion. Government continues to spend on special needs, on carers, on disability more general. Thousands of special education teachers have been appointed since this government came in and continue to be appointed, and special needs assistants. I mean, about 25% now of the education budget is allocated to special needs education. It's the highest ever, even in percentage terms, of the overall education budget. 1,300 new special classes and 7 new special schools, for example. And there has been a range, in terms of health and so on, there have been a range of measures taken. But ultimately it's the Oireachtas, and through budgets every year, that resources get allocated. There is a danger if you allow it exclusively to the courts. You don't get a targeted, focused or strategic approach to dealing with the issues of society. That's why people elect parliamentarians. They elect parliamentarians to pass annual budgets, to prioritise the allocation of resources. That is the key issue in terms of how much you put into a constitution and how much you reserve for the democratically elected representatives of the people.